And hello, everyone. So we're going to do a nice, relaxing little hangout. I've invited, well, Ed's here. I've invited James. I've invited Mark Citadel. I've also invited Jack or Imperial Aspirations. We'll see who turns up. So no worries. We can do one of these later if anyone wants. As usual, if you want to participate, let me know in the comments. If I trust you and you're not retarded, then you might be able to join. What a fucking wonderful privilege. But anyway, me and Ed have been talking for a while, so we're just wondering what could we talk about. We wanted to have that conversation about the Jewish question. I suppose I'll have to go for another day, just due to the amount of stuff which we could say there. We might be able to actually make it a plebeian podcast where we actually do a little bit of research for it, or I write some notes. Ooh, I suppose we could talk about Trump and the RNC whole uh, debacle, which is quite interesting. Did you watch any of that? Any of the speeches? Oh dear, technical difficulties again. I see. Ed, did you watch any of the RNC coverage? Oh man, he's gone again. That's great. Well, I'll fill in. I did watch some of it. Obviously, since it's been published, some of the speeches, and I was interested in the energy of the place. Obviously, Rudy Giuliani's speech I thought was particularly American, boisterous, loud, actually like shouting at the top of his lungs, "America," that sort of thing. Um, but it felt very. It felt like something new um, with American politics, if there is such a thing, such as new. It felt fresh, even if it was American and boisterous and rather uncivilized. It felt like there was a new energy there, a new kind of force there, and not a darkness, not a dark force, but something positive and hopeful. Um, I mean, make no mistake, I've repeated this many times, and people I know have gone on about this point that Trump and so forth is not the next Augustus nor the next Kaiser. He's not going to be Pontifex Maximus. He's not going to, instigate imperium. He does not stand for any imperial ideal whatsoever. But what he does, his importance is in what he indicates at a social and cultural level regarding the zeitgeist of the contemporary West and what is and isn't allowed politically and so forth. And Trump is a great morale boost for nationalists, rightists, and so forth,
Yeah,
the West over. Now, Ed, did you watch any of the RNC coverage?
yeah, I watched a lot of it. I was actually just watching Farage. I wasn't able to watch it at the time, but I watched the clips after the fact. I watched. I was earlier this morning watching Farage give his speech, and I was amazed by the sort of low verbal IQ American man asking him the slightly rude questions. I mean, it is just sort of like American style banter, but it was slightly cringy hearing the questions that Farage was getting. But I think that he did a very good
I
speech.
didn't
And
hear
by the
that.
end of it, he had really won over the crowd. I don't think most people who were listening to him speak actually knew who he was initially, but by the end of the hour
Mm.
or 30 minutes or so, he had won them all over.
Yeah, I didn't know about that. Lance, as we know, posted a picture of himself on Facebook with his mate with Farage. Did you see that?
No,
Um,
I didn't. He
oh,
met Farage.
yeah,
This
yeah,
man.
you met him, which is interesting. Which is interesting. But yeah, I'm yet to see this. I watched. What did I watch? I watched Trump Jr.'s speech, which was very good. Um, I watched a bit of Tiffany's speech. Um, I watched most of Rudy Giuliani's speech. I watched some of Ivanka's speech. Um, I haven't watched Donald's or another thing I wanted to get into was um, Ted Cruz, El Rato, his speech. Good grief! I know about it. I know what happened, but that was political suicide, and then him afterwards trying to go to campaign managers and donors, and then actually one woman had to be restrained after trying to physically assault him for not endorsing Donald Trump as the Republican nominee. I mean, what a fucking retard! Like, you would go through all this and still not give a public endorsement, an official endorsement. How bitter and vile a person! How dishonorable! Not to honor the party you're a part of and the country you're a part of, and not to go for that over someone like Hillary Clinton. I mean, like, I have no idea what the man was thinking, if he even was. And I've seen some people say or speculate that Ted Cruz is actually a psychopath, like clinically, in the way that he doesn't learn from past mistakes. He can't read people. He couldn't read the crowd, and he just doesn't. He's kind of autistic.
Well, I was about to say, yeah, he's more of a spurge lord than anything, probably. I mean, for instance, you've got that moment where he was confronted by the Christian fellow who came up to him with a cross and said, "Look in the mirror," and or something like that. And he just sort of began to nervously chuckle and remarked something like, "Oh, I guess leftists are Christians now," or some other inanity like that. It was just so. Oh,
he's terrible.
It was so cringy.
He's terrible with people.
I hear a lot of praise of him from the sort of policy conservative crowd, who like to say, "Oh, Trump is by policy. Trump is a leftist." Basically, they're not recognizing the importance of Trump as sort of an Overton window shifter.
Yeah. The only people who would support really Ted or really any of the other nominees are people who aren't being pragmatic. I mean, it's fine. You can be being pragmatic isn't always the greatest choice, but it will be impossible demographically for the Republicans to win another election come the next term, the next election season cycle, just because of the amount of minorities there are in the states who vote Democrat. So this is kind of now or never to swing the public opinion rightwards, even if it's just by a tiny little margin. And this is lack of perspective about the larger kind of picture, the big picture, the metapolitics, and the metapolitics of America and Trump's importance in the Overton window, regarding the Overton window, which obviously is one of the little mechanisms in the metapolitics of a civilization, the general sense of political opinion, which is proper and what isn't at a given time in a society, in a social space. All these sorts of things interconnect, and this broad picture seems to be missed by a lot of these kind of pundits and conservative commentators who, at West Coast Reactionaries, P.T. Carlo has been kind of, I swear he got like a death note, sort of writing off all these people's names. The latest one was Ross Douthat, who's this kind of New York Times conservative columnist, who's just basically a leftist. He's not right wing in any sense. He's not traditional conservative really in any proper form. And only where he is, it's feigned to the point where the only power he accepts is the submission to his enemies, the left. He basically just browbeats himself with leftist propaganda all the time. But you have all these sorts of people, and I'm glad to see they're actually disappearing. They're dying out, mostly, or they're fading into the shadows, because these people are totally ineffective. These conservative types, they have done nothing for fucking decades but perpetuate leftism and basically give the left implicit support, basically, by accepting the leftism of 20, 30 years ago. They're simply, in a way, tying up those loose ends. As the left marches forward, they're at the back, kind of cleaning up the rubble, but following the train anyway. It's nonsense. And Trump, and this sort of massive surge of I don't give a fuck about policy. Demographics are important, and political correctness is important, and the general zeitgeist is important. That is wiping all these people out of the water, and that's good, because society does become deadened, and you need to occasionally have a big shake-up and wash away with all the trash and all the debris. Especially when it's just an amalgamation of nonsense. That's my opinions. Basically, on the whole matter, I need to watch more of the RNC nonsense to really get a handle on it. But it's quite interesting, and people are commenting now saying there are fights and other things.
On the subject of the RNC nonsense, I was just about to bring up. Yeah, are you aware of the clash between Alex Jones slash Roger Stone and the Young Turk staff?
I saw.
Did you watch that?
I saw on Facebook. Aristocles Invictus. I'm friends with him, and he liked a post from Maracu of Alex Jones kind of smiling with his arms at his sides and saying with a fucking Infowars microphone, like looking really angry, like he was shouting, and Alex is just smiling into the camera, like looking very pleased. But I don't know what's happened here. I'm not familiar.
Basically, what seemed to happen from my observation of the clip was Alex Jones gets up on stage with Senk, whatever, and begins to sort of, joke around, just a bit of banter, maybe a jest here or there, and jokingly asks, "Oh, how about you debate Roger Stone?" Upon which Cenk, however you say it, begins to freak out and sort of starts yelling, Roger Stone is a liar and a madman, etc., etc. And then they begin to lose patience with Alex Jones, and Alex Jones is just smiling this whole time. Alex Jones has been completely friendly throughout this entire thing, maybe a bit bantery, but that's it. And the amazing thing is then Anna Kasparian of Young Turks fame is suddenly begins screaming, get off the stage, you fat fuck," to Alex Jones, who actually looks relatively slim.
He looks like he's lost weight. He's got a dad bod, but he's lost weight.
Yeah, especially standing next to the
Cenk
Uger, that bloated Turk.
Bowling ball Uger, yeah.
And then Jimmy Dore afterwards, or along with some other people, I believe. I think someone throws tea at him, and then someone spits tea upon him. And at which point, and Alex Jones is just smiling throughout this entire encounter, but he's just, and they force him off the stage, and then they call some sort of security officer to go and escort him out. And so that's the entire interaction from what I saw, but it was just completely overblown, the response. They could have just said politely, hey, we're trying to do something here, get off the stage. And it didn't seem like they were particularly trying to do something. I think it's just that they were sort of terrified by meeting Alex Jones in 3D, because they have had interviews with him over the thing. But as you will know, if you've seen more than one interview with the Young Turks, if you've, been...
I'm not particularly masochistic, so no.
Yeah, exactly. If you're a particularly unfortunate individual and you've seen multiple interviews by the Young Turks, especially with right-wing figures, you will be aware of the fact that they have a tendency to abruptly cut off the other person, hang up upon them, act very rudely to them, accuse them of being a liar, a racist, a bigot, etc., to their face, a conspiracy madman, etc., and then begin yelling about them and going on this, angry, ranting diatribe about them after the fact. Cenk loves to do this, and you'll notice he's done it with Jared Taylor. I think he's done it with Alex Jones before. I think he's done it with, I don't remember who it was. It might have been Derbyshire or Rich Wine or some other person like that. But basically, the Young Turks are absolutely terrible. They're the opposite of journalistic integrity, So and they just seem like awful people who crumple whenever they're confronted with the opposition in a means that they can't shut down.
Yeah. And that it does seem to just be the case for these sorts of people. They just seem to be extraordinarily hysterical. I don't know what it is, this mentality. It just speaks of a total inner nonsense and chaos, and by the way, everyone, Ed is just going to get some coffee. As if he the fucking needs it. But yeah, this sort of hysterical violence And you see this with all like a lot of these kind of leftist rallies and how hysterical people get. There was an article on the Right Stuff a couple of months ago about a woman who punched a fucking horse in the face. What the fuck? Why would you punch a horse in the face? Because obviously I'm not a neurologist, but there is a theory which says that there's a part of the brain which controls anger and these sorts of emotions, and people who are devoutly left wing, kind of humanist, progressive of this sort of type, kind of coffee sipping, college going person, the way their brain handles information is not really rational. It's totally emotional, and therefore their response to emotional stimuli is extraordinarily exaggerated because they obviously conflate good and bad with feeling good or bad. Morality does not become a reasoned or rational thing externally, it becomes my feelings. So this would partly explain this sort of hysteria. I don't know. This is sort of, it makes me really reluctant to speak to leftists generally. Obviously, it's a waste of time most time anyway, but just this sort of, you come to expect this kind of inquisitorial. Oh, you're a racist. Oh, it's like foaming at the mouth sort of thing, especially in person, and if they're in numbers, not by themselves, of course. If not one on one, you do have like some odd instances. Like there was that video of that of this Jewish atheist going off on this Christian holding a sign at this college campus. I think people who know what I'm talking about will remember, or you dirty goyim are the same. Hitler was a Christian, a practicing Catholic, all this sort of thing. But just the sort of nonsense. Who the fuck does that? You're jogging barefoot. Okay, weird. But and then all of a sudden you see this random person and you decide to make a scene in public, yelling at their face random shit. Just no inner calm, no sense of properness and of manners and of rationality and reason and clarity. Just total nonsense. But I'm very surprised at this thing with Alex Jones, that they were spitting on him and shit like that.
Yeah, well, they were spitting tea up upon him. Even worse,
That's just such a fucking trashy thing to fucking do. Like a punch to the face would have been more honourable. You know what I mean? Like spitting.
Yeah, it'd be more manly. A sucker punch would be more manly than a tea spit to the back of the head.
Spitting or something. It's just fucking. That's just so. Oh, it's so vile and lowbrow. Oh, into the trash it goes.
Yeah. I think that one of the best comments here is by Radel Grebtron, and it's I'm not a fan of Alex Jones, but seeing him there with that grin whilst the Turk below is having a panic attack is hilarious. And that's a very accurate description of what was going on.
Yeah.
But what really surprised me though is how Anna behaved, and calling him a fat fuck or something like that. I mean, it was absolutely insane.
Yeah, how shit they go on about people like fat shaming and stuff. They're the first people to whine about fat shaming and body positivity and all these sorts of things. It just shows their true colours, It speaks for itself. I mean, this is the funny thing. Rightists, we righties, I suppose. The left has to really find the weirdest rightists to make fun of, religious creationists and literalists, and funny dirty old men who aren't really hip and down with the kids. That's kind of it. But we with on the right, the contemporary left, it's a walking clown show as it is, just without us needing to nitpick and find these obscure Trotskyites or feminists, really, really highbrow, like kind of Marxian feminists who want to dismantle the very notion of physicality in relation to gender, in relation to identity. I mean, these sorts of stupid things. Just normal stuff which is broadcast on YouTube to millions of people and they lap it up. Ordinary television, what the BBC and CNN put out. there's comedic material there because it's so outlandish. Even if ideologically a lot of people kind of pseudo accept feminism, the ways in which these things are put across is often so hysterical and so out of touch with how most ordinary people behave on a day-to-day basis in ordinary interaction that it's just so outlandish. Um, oh, it's a funny world we live in. What's the weather like in New York right now? Isn't it cloudy, you were saying?
Oh, it's absolutely miserable, gray, cloudy, and terrible. Although my phone is telling me that it's supposed to be sunny and joyous.
Oh, it's sunny and joyous here.
Yeah, I can
The
see
window,
that.
yeah, the room is a bit dark as the camera fucking doesn't react to light properly. But the light outside.
Oh yes, and there's another part that I forgot about. Yuger begins yelling for some reason or another at Alex. Oh, like, I hate Saudi Arabia. I hate Saudi Arabia. I'm not sure what significance that has to anything, but perhaps Jones called him Saudi shell or something. I don't know.
Mm.
But I just think it was. The whole thing's terribly funny. Young Turks is really. If anyone still goes over to the channel once in a while, it is absolutely incredible how people can still believe their narrative after how many times they lie and distort the facts. I mean, you must only be in a bubble of people who espouse the same views as the Young Turks. I don't know. You can watch like BuzzFeed News, Young Turks, and
read the Huffington Post.
Yeah, read the Huffington Post and Vox and Salon and Russell, and of course Russell Brand's The Trues.
Oh fuck! Fucking Russell Brand, the bankers, the bonuses. Poor Russ. He got fucking wrecked on Question Time last year by Nigel Farage. It was so funny, like his silent expression. He was ranting about some shit, and Nigel Farage, I can't remember exactly what happened now, but he said something, and Russell's whole expression, it just looked like he had been just destroyed. It looked like his soul had been ripped out of him. Just how he was sat there on live television, looking down with his hands together, just looking miserable. It was fucking hilarious. Because these people are so self-righteous most of the time, to see them suddenly stop for a moment and stop being so confident. And nothing wrong with being confident, but confidence misplaced in stupidity and arrogance. It's a nice thing. In a way, you think it's kind of good for them because you need that now and again and puts things into perspective. These people. These fucking people. I hope there aren't any of these cunts at the fucking extremist club. I don't think there will be. It's not the sort of place.
Yeah, imagine some extreme antifas.
So I'll be there with some lads who will fucking sort them out. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you're bringing like a whole posse with you. You've got like 10, 15 brothers.
10, 15. Yeah, you're gonna form a gang.
Yeah.
Yeah, like gang signs and shit like that. Like West Coast, I can't fucking do it. My hands are fucked.
Yeah. West Side reactionaries.
West Coast reaction. I can't. My fucking fingers are so bent. I can't do it. But there you go. Well, that would be our gang sign.
You could do. Let's see. Well, you could always start an esoteric right wing bodybuilding society.
Why bodybuilding? Where's that come from?
Well, I don't know. It's a good thing to do with men. You can also do hiking and camping trips.
Oh yeah.
I mean, phalanx is good, but oh shit, I can't believe I said that. But this is going to be better.
No, it's fine. Yeah, the phalanx is fine. The whole phalanx thing with Richard Spencer. That isn't just Richard Spencer. There have been other things like in England along the same lines. I can understand Richard wanted to keep it private though, so we won't mention it again. What else has been fucking going on in the world? Not a lot. Same old. Darkies being darkies, fucking killing loads of people in France. Nice, and then the attack in Germany on the train. And then at the beach, a woman and her 2 daughters were fucking stabbed for wearing too little clothing.
I mean, this is. I wonder if someone's got all of the past, I don't know, 2.5 years plotted out, or perhaps 3 years plotted out, with in regards to Mohammedan terror attacks.
Joseph tells me that Muslims are trying to abduct British military at knife point in Norfolk, which is in England. Fuck me. Yeah, so they're getting a bit brave, cunts. But that's what they're gonna do. Rabid dogs, feral fucking animals, all of them. The sooner they just fuck off, the better. Anyway,
I mean, the insanity of the what happened with that truck, it was almost surreal. I couldn't believe that actually happened. I mean,
I can.
it's not that I couldn't believe that those people wanted to execute that. It's merely that living in a large urban environment, I constantly think to myself, it would be so easy for someone to take one of these massive trucks and simply ram it into a bunch of random pedestrians or even other smaller vehicles.
Mm.
And it's
well, this is what happens when you put the fox right into the chicken coop. This is what multiculturalism is, and this is what leftists don't understand. Yeah, it's all well and good. You can have your fucking American burger and your Italian latte and have your brown friends, but with that, you have these other dangers. You have these other risks. You have these other uncertainties, things you cannot control. You cannot stop Islamic radicalism with a bit of inclusivity and a bit of political correctness. It is a glorious and imperialistic ideal, and I don't see that as it was wonderful, it's great. It's not. It's perverse and corrupt, but it's nevertheless an overcoming and power obsessed mentality, which isn't just I have this particular opinion. It's a way of being, and the secular world cannot stop it. And this is the thing: the secular world cannot erase that which is not secular. The secular world has no real power over anything which isn't secular, because for the religious to change, it has to have already really accepted the secular position. And these sorts of Muslims, they do not. They've totally rejected the West. They've totally rejected secularism. They've totally rejected freedom, democracy, all the other things. And there's no convincing them, because the secular can only speak in secular language, and that language is gobbledygook to the Islamic radical. And they will.
I mean, they've got their minds up though. It's the Europeans who have.
Yeah, they have their minds made up. They are on a fucking holy mission from Allah to wipe out the infidel and to establish Dalal Islam. Yeah, no matter how many small attacks, it doesn't matter. The more the better. It will take time. They are fucking patient. They believe they have all the time in the world. They can do this for decades, centuries. That's the time span they're dealing with. And every life which is wasted, suicide bombing, is justified and adds just a little bit. With everyone, we get a little bit closer. That's their mentality. You cannot correct that with a secular argument. The only way to correct it is to remove them all through force, or to meet them on equal religious grounds, which Christianity managed in the High Middle Ages to an extent. But since then, the secular world has no answer to Islam. Europe, a secular Europe, is fucked. It has nowhere to go. It has nowhere to hide. Europe must become religious again, or it will perish under the weight of multiculturalism, mass immigration, etc. Especially when we look at demographic trends, birth rates, particularly in France, and the amount of young men who are foreign-born and who are going to be foreign-born in 5 or 10 years, these sorts of things. The secular world, liberal world, the materialist world has no answer. There's no way of dealing with this sort of thing. It's a mystery. So, yeah, there will be more of these attacks. I'm not surprised at all they're happening. It's fucking horrific. Children crushed between steel and concrete. I mean, these sorts of things. terrible. But there is no mechanism in place to prevent these things. And liberalism will not allow itself to come up with a mechanism because that will be exclusive and oppressive. Any mechanism which would prevent these sorts of things is deemed nasty, ugly, gross, unclean, unhealthy, improper, impolite. But there is no way of dealing with this sort of situation which isn't a little uncomfortable to the secularist particularly. So, but yeah, they're not going to stop. They're going to keep coming. No one on the right should be surprised by any of this. We should be saying, yeah, we were right. We fucking told you, you dumb cunts. You're continuing not to listen to us. Therefore, these things will continue. You have no way of stopping them. You don't even want to stop them. That means more children are going to be fucking crushed to death. More women blown up, maimed. More men enslaved and cut to pieces and shot. It's not going to stop until people in positions of power and influence realize, wait, no, civilization is a fragile thing. Peace and liberty and love and isn't going to fucking last forever. It has to be maintained by a particular cauldron of ingredients. This is so unbelievable, what we're seeing now, in a way. Not that these people are attacking people and people being killed, but that people at the top are so disconnected and so selfish as to believe that they are above civilization, they are above society. They have no society owes them nothing, they owe society nothing. It's a complete disconnect. I mean, I'm all for hierarchy. For heaven's sake, I'm a monarchist for all intents and purposes. I am for theocracy. But the powers with the state, the powers of state and the government generally, has to be indebted to the people and vice versa. There has to be a connection there. There has to be a relationship there. There has to be a source of, you have the bedrock of society and then you have that which directs it, and they rely upon each other. You have to have this interplay between the inferior and the superior, between the top and the bottom, between left and right, between up and down. And this is a dialectic, this is a dualism, this is a factor of the universe which is totally absent from the political elite, the intelligentsia, the liberal media, etc., who believe themselves to be above it all. It doesn't really matter. They have no influence. They do have influence, or at least they do have. They know they have some influence, but they aren't looking into the long term. This is why when I meet my liberal friend, who's now a libertarian, he's not an anarcho-Marxist anymore. Oh, I'll be right back. Not good.
All right, so Adam's gone. I wanted to. This is going to be an abrupt shifting of topic, but I just wanted to quickly mention about in regards to the RNC conference. Jon Stewart, sorry, pardon me, Jon Leibowitz made some of these comments in regards to the RNC conference. And
hold on, I'm back. We're not talking about that. We're talking about something far more important.
Go ahead.
But the liberals who understand they have influence and power, they cannot see the long term. This is why when I see my leftist friend who's a libertarian now, not an anarcho-Marxist, left libertarian, oxymoron to some, we're not going to bitch over, that's not important. But I always make the point to him, what about the long term? What about the next 100 years? What is society going to be like in 100 years? What's England going to be like in 100 years? 200 years? 50 fucking years? What is it going to be like? Going by present trends, you know? And he always goes blank. He looks at me like a deer caught in headlights. Because people like him don't fucking... They have no tools with which to approach these sorts of questions. They can approach the short term because it's concerned with their own lives and their own individuality and their own tastes and likes and dislikes and desires and this and that. But when it comes to the long-term well-being of a civilization or a family or a theater or a community, for them it's all just kind of given to them. We live in a world of plenty. Nothing really has to be maintained by these people, as so they believe. Oh, we have money, we have resources, we have some safety, I suppose. I don't have to do anything. It's all just there. It's other people. It's society that's the problem. These people say, you are part of society, you dumb cunt. You contribute to it. You affect it, even in the fucking smallest way, even in the smallest little fucking fashion. If you know another person and you have some influence over them, you have influence over society to the smallest measure. Like, this is so important. We are all interconnected in this society. In England, in Britain, you want to balloon it out in the West, generally speaking. Even if it's in small ways, it matters. It matters. But anyway, I've been ranting a little bit. I'm done, really. I need to get another glass of water and have a piss. So, be back in a second.
Alright. I'm not even gonna fucking start talking. Not even gonna begin an idea here, just in case. Alright. Hold on. Alright, well, just some nonsense Johnny Leibowitz has been saying. He said, this country isn't yours. You don't own it. You don't own patriotism. You don't own Christianity. You sure as hell don't own respect for military, police, and firefighters. You don't own America. Interesting comments. I don't have any real opinions upon the RNC. I think that I think that there were two sort of new strains that I've seen emerging come this RNC. One of which is the sort of new populistic Trumpish phenomenon and sort of slightly nativist tinged thing that's going on with, I would say it's going on with Giuliani as well. However, I would stop making funny comments. However, I would say that the other thing that I saw that's kind of new here is this sort of, not even Steven Crowder-esque, but it's kind of like the people who dress like Steven Crowder, and they're like the sort of like Dems are the real racists, Ben Shapiro types. I think that there were a lot of people like that represented there, and I don't mean to be like raining on everyone's parade, but I kept seeing there was this YouTube thing that listed different clips from the RNC, and I was watching the various ones, and there were a lot of these clips of these sort of, I don't know how to say it, but these sort of like young, like neo-cuck generation guys who are I don't know, they're sort of like to the left of Steven Crowder, I guess. Adam, you sort of know what I'm talking about, right?
I've just got back, man. I know what you're talking about.
Oh, sorry, never mind. Basarius has a question for you.
What do you think about the relationship of alt-right and homosexuality? Who gives a fuck? Like, what's the relationship between the alt-right and heterosexuality? It's like, if you know a degenerate, stop fucking telling them to be a degenerate. And if they don't stop, then fucking excommunicate them. There's nothing else you should do or should even give a fuck about caring about. There is no relationship between the alt-right and homosexuality. We are for the family, we are for traditional values, we are for traditional relations between men. I don't think there's any question which needs to be asked here than people looking to find something to bitch about. Was Richard Spencer listening to Milo's speech? So what? Milo Yiannopoulos and all these others are part of the kind of pop right, which is a new kind of phenomenon. Gavin McInnes, Rebel Media, the kind of anti-political correctness crowd, anti-feminist crowd. That's all kind of the pop right, so to speak. They aren't alt-right. Alt-right cares about race, identity, The pop right cares about dismantling feminism and political correctness and social justice. Those are scapegoats. Ultimately, they stem from deeper things.
And in this pop right, is it even necessarily the pop right? To me, it's sort of like the pop center. A lot of them are effectively classical liberals.
You have a right. You have a right. You have a right side to this kind of reaction against PC culture, and that's fair enough, right? That's justified. People should be suspicious about feminism and social justice warriors and that sort of thing. These things are ridiculous and they are harmful, but you have to get to the roots of these things and where these things actually come from and what motivates and drives them and facilitates them. Otherwise, you're attacking a phantom, and you know, it's like a hydra. You strike one head, another one will appear. But this sort of stuff, just leave them fucking to it, mate. You can't fucking control everyone. If people want to care about Milo Yiannopoulos, then that's fine. If I don't, and I've repeated many times that I don't like the man. I think he's a terrible. I don't think he's a good role model. I think he's a bad person. I think he's not a good Catholic at all. I think he's a very degenerate and hedonistic and narcissistic person. I think he's rather harmful. But if that's how other people will realize, hold on a minute, the left really is causing problems. If that's their entryway into something a bit deeper at a later point, then that's fine. Ultimately, we should be concerned with our own selves. Unless you have direct control over something, and it doesn't, relate to you totally individually or totally personally, then where's the point in bothering with it? You're just dealing with hypotheticals. You have intellectuals who like to go on about those sorts of things, and it's fair enough. And, conversation starters and all that sort of thing. But generally speaking, it's not worth the attention. Richard Spencer is simply engaging with a broader outlet. The whole gays for Trump thing, I mean, who gives a fuck? So unimportant.
I just want to quickly mention, I can understand sort of the gays for Trump thing. Trump is effectively, at the end of the day, he is an average guy from New York. He is going to be effectively a lot more of and he's a businessman as well. In the world that he's in, he's going to have, certain opinions, generally speaking, about I effectively think that Trump is something of a civic nationalist. He's good. I think he has certain views about like race as it pertains to, like, he's not going to think that black people or Jews necessarily need to be kicked out of the country. He's not going to think that gays need to be in the closet. And I think that that's part of a byproduct of his background. I think that
of course it is.
He may be leaning increasingly towards the right, but I think that it's understandable when people say that, Trump isn't, Trump is no reactionary. Really what Trump is, I think he has this sort of sense of this passive nativism in the back of his head and a very good instinct. And he's reached a tipping point. He's seen things change to a point where he wants to change things. And it's just this sort of back of his mind latent nativistic instinct that's driving him. It may become something more, and perhaps there is more that he's letting on. I mean, you never know. Because
I don't think it really matters. I've said repeatedly, and this is my view, that Trump's importance, his significance, isn't so much in his policies or actual opinions, but rather in the general tone of him and the phenomenon that is the Trump phenomenon, the general aura, the general vibe of this sort of force, and its relation between with the political left and right as it stands in European and Western and American and Anglo-spherical culture, and the general tone of political correctness and these sorts of things, saying no to people, saying no to feminists and leftists, saying, no, hold on a minute, that's not quite right. The very fact of having the propensity and existent to deny these sorts of people and to question them instead of just following a blind ideology, as a lot of students seem to be doing. A lot of the young, a lot of the people in the intelligentsia and the media and journalists, etc., do. We know this. And that's what the whole pop right is a part of, this kind of reaction against SJWs. It's not enough. It isn't radical enough. Make no mistake. It's not extreme enough, far from it. Populism, as Mr. Cormack says, right? It's not enough. It will not fix all our problems. But it's a good sign. The existence of these things, it's a positive development.
It's like you see a man, he fell out of a building, it seems as if he's almost dead, reach for his hand, there's a faint pulse.
Exactly.
So you can tell that there's still something in there alive and kicking.
Yeah. As Mark says, it's about saying, I won't watch your shitty Ghostbusters remake. You know, it's about saying, it's about not conforming. It's about, in a way, about individualism, but individualism for the right reasons. Individual choice and for the right reasons, not so you can be a retard, but so you can actually step outside of the confines of a dying society and say, hold on a fucking second, something's not quite right here. And that is a good thing. Although it doesn't actually solve the problems, you cannot have the masses solve the problems. It will not be the masses, it will be the elite. But the masses doing that, that's fine. And that's a good thing. If we want to encourage that, then that's fine. We don't need to encourage it. The leftists themselves encourage it by their own stupidity. With every terrorist attack, there is more kind of, hold on a minute, this whole multiculturalism thing isn't really working out very well. Adrian Avery asks, Adam, do you listen to Common Filth? We've spoken about Common Filth before. My view is that Common Filth, whilst a good guy, is not riding the tiger, and he should learn how to ride the tiger. He doesn't speak to me. He doesn't speak. He doesn't seem to me like a good Christian. There is no Christ within him. There is no calm within him. There's no serenity. Him lashing out at all these things. Okay, yeah, these things are bad. They're problems, sure. But what about you? What about things you actually have influence over? What about things you actually can affect and can change? What can you actually tell people individually? What advice can you give people? What can you encourage, even if it's implicitly? Common Filth just seems to like to rant and moan a bit. Someone's gonna do that, but I don't think he should. I think he should learn how to ride the tiger, like I said many times. And you can transmute the filth around you into something better. Yeah, that's the idea of the cross, of the crucifix, the literal killing of God, and yet it becomes something, an object of reverence and of beauty in a way. You transmute the ugly into the beautiful through alchemy and through kind of mystical kind of process, and that's what Common Filth needs to fucking learn. Soon he is going to lose his mind. He is going to descend, and he is descending, but he can stop. Yeah, most of the people on the alt-right aren't riding the tiger. Yeah, that's true, but that's because they wouldn't know how to. Most people in the alt-right lack leaders, they lack guidance, they lack structure. I lack these things. I'm slowly building them myself and finding my way, but it's difficult and it's tricky to navigate these sorts of things. There's nothing wrong and nothing bizarre with people complaining about the world, right? That's people's first reaction. There's a problem over there. Okay, that's fine. But we live in a society where actual action and genuine changes for the better are discouraged. We live in a world of illusion and of falsehood and of manipulation and lies and half-truths and of nonsense. And it's difficult then to puncture through that, to wash all that aside, because we don't have the tools for it. That's why it takes internal reflection and meditation, I suppose, contemplation, taking oneself seriously and being genuine, being honest. Again, I'll say it again. Being honest is the most revolutionary act one can ever achieve in the modern world. Being honest, being genuinely honest, and being clear with people and transparent, because it's so unusual. Most people hold things back. Things are mired with ego and other dust. To not conform to that, to step outside of it, to circumnavigate it, to overcome it, is a sign of being on a path which is truly of significance and of value. It's one thing to want to save society. It's another thing to save yourself. And really, you can't do one without doing the other. Again, it's about the Crusaders' ethic. You have the external battle, you have the internal battle. You have the internal self, which has to be cultivated in order to properly deal with the external world around you. There is no. If you want to be a good leader, for example, you can't be without self-control and without rules and without values. You have to be self-disciplined, and you need to know what you're doing. And there needs to be order and hierarchy and structure and clarity. Sawzai says, "Hey Adam, did you see that you're on the anti-white hate list?" What? Link me if you're not memeing. I'm on an anti-white hate list. Oh dear. Why is that? Because I'm not a white nationalist. Okay. Some people, dude.
What, has someone made an Adam Wallace entry in Judas Watch or something? Because I don't know what they would put him down for,
Oh, it's an 8-pole meme. Send it to me on Skype. Let me have a look. Oh shit, some Pollacks of fucking, probably Brit Pollacks, just fucking around. Anti-white hate list. Sawzai has sent me.
Oh man, unfortunately, I regret to inform you, but you're beaten out by Robert Mugabe. I think you're coming in 4th place compared to him.
Enemies of the white race: Alberto, morality official, Mugabe, me, Nigel Farage. Oh right, it's a meme. I can't see this. It's too small. The picture is too small.
No, I'll read it out.
I saw that. You've sent me a thumbnail. Are you new here?
No, it's the first one is larger. It says, enemies of the white race, the official watch list. Number 1, Alberto Barbosa, crime, Ginny posting. Number 2, morality official, crime, producing anti-white content. Number 3, Robert Mugabe, crime, impersonating a non-Aryan. Number 4, Adam Wallace, crime, anti-white hate speech. Number 5, crime, Nigel Farage, crime, opposing Aryan superstates. Stop, you are posting in an implicitly anti-white comment. Stop insulting an Aryan warrior such as Millennial Woes. Right. Attacking or insulting an Aryan warrior such as Millennial Woes is not positive for our movement, therefore is anti-white. And advise you, therefore you think you before you post, or you will be added to the anti-white watch list.
And it's got a picture of Richard Spencer.
It's got a picture of Richard Spencer looking very implicit.
Oh, base Dickie Spence. Oh, I'm glad it's just a meme. I wouldn't want like some. Oh fuck me saying that. I'm gonna fucking get it now. But yeah.
You know what they say? Things are being memed into reality nowadays. The meme reality plane the rift has grown.
Yeah. Am I drinking a Romulan ale? No, this is just water in a blue glass. It's just water. I'm not drinking ale at 2 in the afternoon. I had an ale last night. But no, not in the 2 in the bloody afternoon. Heavens. The real pick was in Argent's chat. I'm not involved in Argent's chat. All these other groups, all these other things. I leave them all.
I know why he's saying Romulan ale. It's that damn Star Trek thing, because it looks blue. I had a similar.
I'm not autistic. I don't fucking watch Star Trek. I'm sorry.
I had a similar initial question. I thought, Adam, what are you drinking? Some sort of cleaning fluid or antifreeze?
No, it's fucking water in a blue glass.
Romulan ale.
When he said Romulus, I was thinking, wait, I'm expecting him to say like Remulus, Remus, Rome, of course. I was like, what? My history cogs were kind of wearing a little bit. I was a bit confused. Or my mythology, I suppose. Oh, bloody hell, nearly clear sky. Windows wide open. Should be outside, really. But I have to be inside waiting for some guys to deliver some guttering. because we need to read all the guttering.
Adrian asks, "Why do you have a blue glass? Because you think you're better than us?"
Yes, just to signal my Aryanness.
It's highly esoteric blue glass.
To go my blue eyes, master race. Keep that in mind, everyone. It's hard at the top. You got a lot of people to impress. You know what I mean? WKD, no mate, that's fucking disgusting. The fucking vodka and that kind of shit, mate, it's pleb tier. Oh dear, I'm quite relaxed. These bastards delivering the guttering are like a week late, but
What? So why do you expect them to come today?
Oh, their truck broke down. My granddad rang them up.
Yeah, took them a week for them to patch the truck up. Yeah,
it was a week, about 3 days. I'm exaggerating, but yeah.
Adam's drinking pre-oxygenated blood.
Yeah, it's the whose blood is it? Good heavens! Mr. Cool Mug. No, yeah, no, that's not cool. That's a bit no. We like a bit of bants, but that's just kind of disgusting.
Luckily, you're not drinking anything right now.
Yeah, vodka tastes like Russian soul, bitter and cold, eh?
Adam, you and I believe, at one point were talking about the politics of intoxicants and various cultures.
Oh yeah,
including different types of alcohol within Europe. Talking about how let's say the difference between savoring alcohol and taking large amounts of like shots of more intense alcohol.
In England, these kind of shots and party drinking, it's all new. It's really an American and European import. People go to raves and shit like that. But no, because the drinks we have in England particularly take years to make. Ales, meads, cider. These things, they take a long time to make and ferment and process. And oftentimes, especially in cities, though, in the industrial age particularly, these things were drunk instead of beer was drunk instead of water, because water was unclean, but beer obviously was not, because it had gone through a boiling process. But these things, I'm just trying to think. I mean, I can only really speak for the English, and the sorts of things we drink alcohol-wise. I mean, it's about the hearth and about the family and the theme and the community. So it's festive drinks, meant to lighten the environment. But over a period of time, it was never drinking to get pissed. You would get inebriated, yes, but after several pints of rather strong ale, which had been made a year or years prior, and had been waiting for that moment, and it was a moment of celebration and of release and of community and brotherhood and so forth. With these festive, I mean, we have Christmas goes back millennia as a festival with the pagans, and even earlier. So I don't know if that's different in the parts of the world. I mean, in East Europe, there seems to be this kind of, especially from like the Soviet period, and the Slavs particularly have always been a rather oppressed people. That's a word which is a buzzword in a way, but they've always been a rather servile race. There's always been a very strong disparity between the, for example, the Romanovs and the serfs. And so alcohol was kind of an escape, or almost for a lot of ordinary people. It was kind of treated in a festive light, in a celebratory fashion, but almost out of necessity, not out of choice, because you had to have that release valve. You had to have that kind of to make things a little different. There seems to, just from my view as an outsider, there seems to be this kind of desperation almost. This kind of there's a coldness to the east, especially the northeast, and that's reflected in their alcoholic habits and drinking. Statistics in like East Europe are terrible. People who are alcoholic and drug abuse and things is like that as well. And the only reason they're really bad as well in West Europe, especially amid young people, is because they lack meaning in life. They lack value, and so they just seek to escape and dull the dullness in a way. Um, have a look here.
Yeah. I also wanted to say specifically, alcohol is more associated with Europe, whereas, oh God, oh, you shall not be named. Just suddenly messaged me.
Yeah, but we were talking about
No.
this the other week.
Yeah. We did talk about this earlier. I just wanted to mention alcohol, whereas specifically in Judaism, there is deliberately a commandment against drunkenness specifically as an act, and similarly in Islam there's a prohibition. Alcohol specifically is named, whereas generally in I think Judaism is much less stringent upon alcohol and general drug use during life. Islam is overall much harsher, but generally speaking, both of the harshnesses of both are generally aimed towards alcohol, and I think that that makes sense because other things, drugs that people use in the region, like cat or hashish or whatever, are like are much more commonly used without people thinking of it in, let's say, that necessarily sinful way, whereas alcohol is in both contexts, and alcoholism is much more frowned upon. Whereas in Europe, I think there's always been a social element to drinking and alcohol and whatnot. And it's always been viewed as something that, well, alcoholism has always been viewed as negative, I think, in all societies, but in Europe it's been much more integrated into the culture, the alcohol.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, there's some questions here to change the topic just a little bit. Adam, do you think there is still such thing as Mercian identity or Northumbrian identity? I don't know. I've never been to Mercia or Northumbria. I'm in the south west and in Devon in England and Exeter. Sorry, my father is from York and my mother is from London, but those sorts of areas are rather alien to me. I know and indulge in the southwest, in this sort of the Devonian identity, which is here, especially next to Cornwall, and Cornish nationalism does in a way create this sort of Devonian identity vis-a-vis the Cornish nationalism as a reaction against it. So yeah, we have it down here, but I'm not sure I'd need to meet someone from Northumbria and ask them. My Hyperborean blood can't stand the summer heat. Yeah, mine neither. Oh man. I can only deal with it. I have all the windows, apart from those two, open in the house. So all the air is flowing out and in this way, next to me. All the windows at the front are open, all upstairs. For fucking 4 days. 4 days now, we've had all the windows open. I went out for a walk one day where it was very warm, but I was the sun kind of energized me, so I can deal with it. Thereafter, though, it actually got hotter, and I just can't do anything. It's too hot. I just get unwell almost. I tried to look for a fan. I can't find anything. I've been just drinking loads of water and occasionally going upstairs to wet my face in the sink and just let that evaporate and take the fucking heat out of me. But yeah, it's been nice. I mean, we've needed. It's been late due, but it happened. We finally have some sun this year, as opposed to last year, which was really grey all year, really terrible and dull. And one gets used to the grey weather, but it does get to the point where then oneself kind of reflects it, and it's not good, especially for like an entire year. it gets difficult to remain not fucking miserable all the time. So when it's sunny like this, it energizes people, and it's good for you. But
Some people are asking. Sorry, go. I don't mean to divert. Go ahead.
I was just gonna find some more questions.
I
Adam, did you see
wanted
the
to.
riots in London?
Yeah, I wanted to
I'm
bring that
aware
up
of the
because a
riots
family
in
member of
London.
mine.
I'm aware of them, but I haven't looked into it. So
Family member of mine actually walked right by that while it was going on.
really,
Yeah, it was
fucking hell, I think
a
they
mini
get fucking killed.
happening. It was a mini happenings. Just some ethnic youths in the area doing their thing.
Vibrant youths, eh? Yeah, in Exeter right now it's 64 degrees Fahrenheit. Wait, what's going on here? No, that's in America. Good heavens. That's not Exeter, England. Is an Exeter in America, you thieving bastards? Oh, 21 degrees. 21 degrees. That's fucking hot for England.
By the way, a metropolitan police officer and two members of the public were actually knifed or shanked.
Fuck me.
And four other people were just injured in the area. There was a quote unquote water fight and a party.
Yes, that's what happened. Yeah, I remember now. There's a water fight, and then it just kind of got out of hand, and people started getting fucking stabbed. Lovely.
Ethnic youths just doing their thing.
Yeah. But yeah, as Radl Grebdon says, Tacitus said that the Germanic tribes liked being too cold rather than too hot. Yeah, I can confirm that's true. I'm much happier being cold than hot. Personally, I'm very hot-blooded and hairy. So the heat is just not a friend of mine. Although, if one gets a bit of adrenaline going out for a walk, and one can tolerate the sun, if there's a bit of wind, But generally speaking, overheating. I wake up every morning overheating with a headache every fucking day. With the window open, thin sheets, sleep naked. It's fucking horrible. I need to get a fan, a quiet one. But yeah, just the heat is not a Germanic's friend. It's nice now and again, though. We can tolerate it now and again. But yeah, so it's about 20 odd degrees here. It was hotter 2 days ago.
Imperial Aspirations has got some harsh words about heat.
Heat is for chthonic savages, TBH. I agree with you, Jack. Filthy telluric demons. Yeah, you revel in your hellfire. We'll stay up here as nice and cold in paradise. Adam, I don't accept you as Germanic. You look Welsh. Celtic, Germanic. No, I don't have very Teutonic features, I know. Heavy jaw, heavy brow. I need to do one of those 23andMe things.
I like how you put in those middle initials in order to deal with all those fakers and imposters out there.
Wallaces, yeah.
The pseudo Wallaces.
Yeah, they're not real Wallaces, They don't actually understand Wallaces. I clearly have Welsh ancestry. My surname is Wallace, which means Welshman. I mean, for fuck's sake. Pavel Kostic. Oh dear, what a silly question. Thoughts on Pokemon Go? I don't have thoughts about that, to be honest, mate. I've been ignoring it because it's fucking stupid. It's just the next stage in video games.
I think that it's it's sort of the next level of escapism, augmentation of reality. Everyone I know in my normie sphere is raving and ranting on about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Normies love it. Even my fucking brother's been playing it. Terrible. It's kind of a meme in a way with some people. It's just like a bit of fun, but people have actually been robbed over this shit. People have actually been attacked. There was one picture I saw of all these people crowding on this pier because there was a particular Pokemon on this pier, and they're all on their fucking smartphones like zombies chasing it. Terrible. It provides something for Noble DTM to catalog, I suppose. But yeah, it is truly just the next level in illusion and in the falseness of modernity.
I'm not gonna lie, I downloaded it, but it's just because some girl persuaded me into it in her presence.
A fucking girl, you fucking faggot.
I haven't caught one Pokemon.
You should not even fucking you getting being persuaded by a woman. Fucking fuck you.
I know, right?
We can't speak anymore.
It's my feminine soul.
Fuck's sake. I'm disappointed in you.
Mark Citadel, I think it's hilarious. I read that, and although I don't approve of people being on their phones all the time in the middle of museums, I think that's just fucking. It's just fucking funny. I can't. It's just sort of an amusing, absurdist little occurrence. You can't not be amused.
Oh dear. Well, Jack says.
Anyone who feigns. Sorry, I just wanted to say anyone who feigns sort of offense at that is honestly just like how could you not find that even marginally amusing? I mean, come on. And I'm sure that there are other unfortunate instances when they've come up funerals and whatnot.
Just to change the subject onto something a bit more interesting. Jack says, be proud to be part of the Celtic master race. You will be spared when we reclaim the Isles from the Germanics. Around the Krauts, watch out. Shit. We're gonna kill all the Saxons off. Eventually, when the happening happens, Germanics in England will not be spared. We will raise Vortigern with necromancy back from the dead. He will lead us to glory, and Hengist and Horsa will be cursed back to hell. Oh dear.
Pelech asks, he says, tell Adam that the IDF and IRA are going to get together to destroy the Saxon line, and then follows it up with a question: is vapism escapism?
Vapism? Is that like a new religion around people vaping around like that H3H3 video, Vape Nation?
I read this really depressing New York Times story called it was about this place called the Tapering Vapor, and then actually Common Filth covered it afterwards. This was before I had even really started watching Common Filth consistently, and I mean I'd certainly heard of him before. I heard of him ages ago since he was on featured on TRS, but it was just this incredibly depressing story about all these young and sort of middle-aged people who go together and they just sit around and vape. I mean, they phrased it in just such a miserable, depressing way. I mean, I guess I'm one to talk because it's viewed as normal, like in places like, I don't know, at least in Israel, I've been there, and probably I assume in other Middle Eastern and North African countries for like men in their 50s to sit around and smoke argilas. But I think that's somewhat different because they're usually retired.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, smoking is just this kind of cool, hip thing young people do to waste their money. It's just unless you're smoking a pipe, it's degenerate. Okay, we have that as a rule now. Yeah, but vaping is just people think it's a trendy alternative, but ultimately it's still bad for you. It's not fucking good for you. You're still inhaling carbon monoxide, even if it's a small degree.
And isn't nicotine just as addictive either, no matter how you slice it?
Yeah, nicotine is really fucking bad for you. People shouldn't smoke, it's not good for you, but there's no reason to moralize it, like say, oh, we should ban it.
Someone said that Spencer called Tila Tequila to be a guest speaker at NPI, and Bizarius
Yeah,
asks
Let
Adam
me
if
just read Bazarius'
Dwarves should go there.
comment. Adam, will Millennial Woes go to the NPI conference in November? Apparently, yeah. Did you hear that Spencer called Tila Tequila to be a guest speaker? No, and I fucking hope he's joking. If Tila Tequila should be allowed to speak there, I will fight the alt-right, says Adrian Avery. Yeah.
I just wanted.
But yeah,
There are some people. Yeah.
I know smoke.
A bunch of people shilling for smoking in the comments.
That's why.
Personally,
me and Katie are at this conversation.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for me, it's the Argila that I've got. I rather enjoy it. But it's a nice social thing, really. Put it in my living room.
Yeah, it can be pleasant, like anything. I suppose it's the difference, like with alcohol as well. Like you can have a nice bottle of ale, contrasted with like 2 liters of a fucking Strongbow, which is cheap cider that poor people drink. Like, but out and about, they binge drink with these big fucking plastic bottles of cider. It's a bit of a different. Well, the difference between a nice glass bottle of vintage oak aged or oak barrel aged ale.
Crafty hen.
Old crafty hen boy. That's where it's at. And and it's the same could be said for ordinary cigarettes and things like cigars, pipes.
Testa says that all smokers go to hell. Who Puritan here? See, the thing is, the interesting thing is, Judaism is very much the opposite. It's so anti-ascetic and anti-Puritan. Well, that's not true. There are some aspects of it that are fasting, and there have been ascetic, even specifically ascetic clans of it. But that was never intended for the average Jew. It was only intended for certain mystics, except I think amongst the Essenes, who were more ascetic overall, but generally speaking, I think that Jews don't really have that. I mean, nearly as much as, let's say, Mohammedans, Puritans, etc.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. Judaism's about enjoying life, perhaps because there's the conception of what happens after life is rather blurry.
I was speaking with James, and he said to me he was reading Meditations. I think it was Meditations on the Tarot. Oh no, I won't say any more actually, to be that will confuse something. But there was a view in the book that Judaism itself, as a foundation of religiosity, there is nothing as pure as the religion of Israel itself. When we actually really go back in history, which is an interesting statement to make that this book made when you compare that to the Jewish people, the Israeli people now, and how there seems to be this extraordinary temporal degeneration as we've had this conversation about diaspora. Oh, actually, should we leave that for our talk about the JQ? I think we should. I shouldn't.
We're
gonna
do a bunch of good content on this. No. You can say whatever the fuck you want. I don't think it matters.
I like to separate things. I like to have one topic. We'll talk about this, and then it just makes things cleaner, rather than me having to repeat myself again and again and again and again and again, which I don't enjoy doing. But yeah, as Jack says, asceticism should be a higher caste activity. Most people simply twist it and drag it down when they practice it. Yeah. Well, they can't practice it. They try, they fail, and then they try and remove the very idea of it.
So, and I suppose that's very much emphasized in Judaism. And ideally, Judaism, the average person doesn't really even directly do most of the communication, as it were. If I'm not mistaken, there's a lot of interfacing going on through the priestly aristocracy and the temple and whatnot, and the council of the Sanhedrin, etc.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into that in another conversation.
Yeah,
maybe later if you're around. Maybe later we'll do it then. We'll have our
certainly. Yeah. I'm having a poet from West Coast Reactionaries come over to my house today, actually.
Oh, yes.
Am I allowed to say that? Is that a dox?
Yes, you can say Pylads or John Pellick. Pellick the poet, that'll be his name.
Yeah, Pelek the poet is coming over.
Yeah. It'll be the Pellick. On Wikipedia, unless you're 100 years, it'll be Pellick in brackets poet. And but he's here right now, Buffalo. But what is it now? What's the time? 2:30. Adam, I'm not joking regarding Tila Tequila, yada yada. Both these whores are using hashtag alt-right. Dude, stop giving a fuck. The only reason these people matter is the only reason idiots matter, if they are idiots, is because people give them attention. It's the rule of the internet. Just ignore it. If it's wrong, if it's bad, if you don't like it, ignore it. If you can totally destroy something, then do it, but otherwise, if you can't remove something in its totality, you have no influence over it. Oh, of course, right. Yeah, Bizarre. Sorry, I misread that. I'm terrible. But yeah, seriously, regarding like women in the alt right, just don't fucking worry. Just don't bother. But yeah, I did Hebrew that word right up. Adrian to Adam. I'm just enjoying the nice breeze coming in. Oh mate.
Yeah, it is lovely. Oh man, my AC's on as well right now. Hold on, let me turn it off actually.
I don't need AC. Well, we don't need it most of the time. Bloody seagulls, you're fucking 20 miles from the sea, you fucking foreigners. Bastards.
Yeah, rub it in a bit more, why don't you? That you don't need AC and everything.
Well, sometimes we do. Like, I need a fucking fan because it's really hot. But usually, no, we don't. Lisa asks, anyone in Australia? No one here that I'm aware of.
Millennial Woes runs both Austria and Australia Skype groups that serve as interfacings for reactionaries, nationalists, traditionalists, whatever. I don't know. So
I don't think Lisa is aware of these sorts of things. I have no idea who this person is. I've never seen her. What are her liked videos? Oh, right. She is subscribed to Meraki and so forth and so on. Yeah, Athena, she's in Australia. Oh, Sussex. We will get to that in another conversation about Ed's thoughts on how we can get more Hebrews and Jews to think like him. We'll get to that in another.
Well, no, they're not supposed to. I mean, I want them to think like me, but I don't want to be too pompous about my thoughts being the only one. I mean, well, I just think that this is the only possible solution. You know,
yeah. We'll get to that. It's so much to say. It was so much to say. I mean, I don't want to fragment it up. I want to have it all in one bundle, a nice clean package. How do we leave our salons and make changes? Asks John. What do you mean by change? How do you define change? Firstly, you have to change yourself and your own life circumstances and what you do and don't support and so forth. Anyway,
good way to change is getting a Richard Spencer haircut.
Yeah, but a salon is a part of change if you think about it. Regarding the general tone of a society and the state of its intelligentsia, that is a sign of things changing and for the possibility within this civilization to move this way or that, depending upon the intelligentsia who tend to have power and upon people who write and who influence the intelligentsia. The French Revolution didn't just happen because someone decided, oh, we'll just kill the aristocracy. It was a long process which involved intellectuals, academics, salons, think tanks. Obviously, the equivalence of 300 years ago, but it wasn't just as simple as action, action, action. There is more to action than just politics. A society changes according to more trends than just voting patterns. It's more complicated than that. So what we're doing here, the very fact that I'm sat here and you're sat there listening to me ramble about bullshit, the very fact that this is even happening speaks of underlying social trends which have facilitated this scenario. It is a sign of change itself, and it can affect change. I have influence over hundreds of people in some small way. There are hundreds of people who actually, to some measure, give a shit about what I have to say. So I have some very small influence there. So, and this is how these things develop, and it kind of snowballs, and this changes that, and this changes that, and it's all very subtle and complicated. But making societal changes is a very long and complicated process, and it can only come from top down. Even if it comes from bottom up, the top have to accept that, or be removed, or remove themselves. The French aristocrats remove themselves ultimately by being incompetent. Can I join the call? Asked John. Yeah, in a second. I'm going to be right back, and then I'll add you, and then we'll start anew. Actually, I'm going to cut this conversation short right here, and this can be part one of our little conversation today.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
So
second one coming on then. All right.
Yeah,
it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Just 5 minutes, and then we'll have 5 minute, 10-minute break, and then we'll be back.
I'll be back. I'll be back then. Talk to you soon.
All right,
okay?
nice.
It's been a pleasure. Peace.
Likewise. Thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you in a minute.